I'm gonna start off this video on a pretty unrelated note, but I am on cloud 9 with these new Superman Legacy castings. I'm gonna do a video on that when I can, because I am just excited about that. I don't know. It's a big game changer for me in how I feel about the DCU. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say about that. Never mind. Earlier this week, I finally watched Nimona. Just like that casting announcement, I feel like animated movies have been pretty insane recently. I've seen a lot of the big ones. I think Mario is one of my favorite movies of the year, mainly because I've been waiting for a Mario movie. My review of that explains why. We have a lot of upcoming stuff as well, like the new Hayao Miyazaki movie, How Do You Live? I still gotta catch Elemental, and maybe I'll watch Ruby Gilman, but we also have the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which could be very interesting. And we can't talk about animation this year, let alone movies in general this year, without mentioning Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I think is a game changer, not only for animation, but for movies in general, and just how it is. And now we have another animated movie taking the stage, which has a pretty crazy backstory to it. It's called Nimona, which this is the review of. Nimona is a graphic novel, I believe. The name of the author is escaping me right now, so I'm gonna flash it up on the screen when I talk about this. This is an adaptation of that graphic novel, and it was being animated by Blue Sky, which is a former Fox company. If you don't know what movies they've made, they've had a reputation for being a pretty big studio. They did the Ice Age movies, they did the Rio movies. I think more recently they did that animated Charlie Brown movie that came out, which was actually pretty sweet. Blue Sky actually ended up being shuttered when Disney bought out 20th Century Fox and they became the same company. And because of a couple of different elements that are in Nimona that mainly have to do with, like, the LGBT community, and it's never officially gotten out of that actually being the reason, but Disney ended up canceling Nimona very close to its completion. Whether it was because of that reason or not, it didn't have a good look for Disney. A movie that honestly looked pretty promising. I didn't really know what it was at the time, like when it was canceled, but I saw a couple images of it and some of the concept art as well, and I think it looked pretty cool. So, and it also was not a great look for Disney from a political perspective either, but also that's just normal right now at this point. I don't know. Eventually, Annapurna Interactive teamed up with Netflix to save the movie, and they actually completed it, and it's very nice in the credits. Every animator from Blue Sky, whether they worked on Nimona or not, is featured in the credits, and I think that's just a very nice thing to do. And yeah, Nimona hit Netflix very late last month, and I finally got to catch it, and I thought this was great. It's honestly, it might be one of my favorite movies of this year. The plot of Nimona is that there is this knight that is framed for this tragic crime that he didn't commit, and he goes into hiding, and the only person that can help him reclaim his name, essentially, and his life is this teenager named Nimona, and it all goes from there. It's honestly a pretty cool idea. In terms of the animation itself, it leans more towards the Spider-Verse hyper-stylized. I don't think it's anything on the stylistic perspective as Spider-Verse, but it is more Spider-Verse than more traditional animation, or 3D animation, I should say, like Elemental. And it's also really helped out by the setting and overall aesthetic of this movie. It's essentially a medieval Blade Runner, where it is just like set in this futuristic world with like much more like medieval stuff and knights and all modern and futuristic technology. I think that's an incredible idea that I haven't really seen before, and I think that was just a really fresh setting to have something like this in. The trio of performances in this is actually really good. Chloë Grace Moretz has a lot to do as Nimona with such an erratic character voice. You can tell that she had a lot of fun doing this, and honestly, Nimona might be one of my favorite characters of this year. Riz Ahmed voices the cast out Knight, and I also thought he did a great job along with nailing the emotional aspects of this. And just, again, it felt like a very believable performance. Those are the two core performances of the movie, but I also want to shout out Eugene Lee Yang, which I had no idea who he was up until looking up who it was. And apparently he is one of the Try Guys, which I didn't know, but the fact that he is essentially like the main supporting role, like I think pretty sure he's like the third main character out of this, and he does a great job too. There is a great partnership that is here in this movie that also has to do with like LGBT relationships, and I think is a huge leap forward in representation. Especially that it is essentially a huge component of the movie that and just couldn't be cut out by anything. And I feel like that is just really nice to see, just in my opinion. This was also a really funny movie. A lot of the jokes landed like 99% of the time. A good amount of them are puns, which just that got me immediately. I'm a dad joke guy. But other than that, I think this style of humor really worked for the style of animation. I also think the actors nailed it, and just in timing overall, I just think it really bolstered the movie with. The strongest part of this is the story, though, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know when the adaptation of the original like graphic novel was picked up. I haven't read the graphic novel either, but I would be very surprised if it wasn't picked up immediately, because this is just a very sweet movie at its core. There's always like that animated movie gut punch, and honestly, nothing like this hit hard in the way that I think it was intended to, and honestly, like the big gut punch thing, well, honestly, to me, it rivals the opening to Up in just how bold they go for this, and just it was something that I never expected to see on this level in a PG rated animated movie, and just it was very shocking to see that in the best way possible. I'm trying to tiptoe around spoilers here because I really do think this is a special movie. In terms of Netflix originals, this is one of their best in a long time. I had to look up and put down in my notes of like what's the last one that I really responded to well, and that was The Harder They Fall, that Western from like maybe 2 years ago, that I just thought was incredible. And I think this is better than that, so at this point I might say that like this is their best original movie since, I don't know, The Irishman? Two completely different movies, but they're both put out by Netflix, so why not? I forgot to put this in my notes, but I do want to talk about awards chances with this. And I can't say that pretty much all the awards are going to go to Spider-Verse right now, because it's the middle of the year. I'm not like a psychic, I can't see into the future. But if Spider-Verse is going to rack up all the awards, at least nominate this with it. Like, that's the best sign of respect I can get. And also, if Blue Sky wasn't shuttered and just not a studio anymore, this would have been like a huge renaissance for them, and just a massive achievement that is now turned into a swan song for them. Yeah, Nimona is one of my favorite movies of the year, as I said earlier. I'm just gonna give it a 10 out of 10. Yeah, there we go. My question for you is, have you seen Nimona? Did you like it at all? Did you feel like it stood out at all in this area? Either way, I want to know what you think about Nimona in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. See ya!